Have you ever had one bad practice, one bad performance, or one mistake that completely changed the way that you saw yourself? Maybe you missed a skill you had done 100 times before. Maybe you didn't perform the way you wanted to. Maybe you looked around and felt like everyone else was improving faster than you. And suddenly, it wasn't just about that one moment anymore. You started questioning yourself. Am I good enough? Am I working hard enough? Do I still belong here? I know I felt that way before. And the hardest part wasn't the mistake itself. The hardest part was realizing how much of my confidence I had connected to my performance. Today on Beyond the Uniform, we're talking about what happens when we stop measuring our worth by our achievements, our scores, or what we can do for other people, and how we learn to love who we are outside of the uniform. Welcome back to Beyond the Uniform, a podcast where we look beyond the competition, beyond the achievements, and beyond the version of ourselves that everyone else gets to see. I'm Mackenzie Jinks, and this podcast was created for student athletes who are constantly showing up for their teams, their coaches, their friends, and their families, but sometimes forget to show up for themselves. Being an athlete teaches us so many incredible things. It teaches discipline, teamwork, commitment, and how to push through challenges. But sometimes being an athlete can also make us forget that we were people before we were performers. Because when you spend years hearing your identity connected to what you accomplish, it can become difficult to separate who you are from what you do. And this is what we're going to talk about today. What happens when the uniform comes off? Who are you when nobody is watching? Who are you when there is no competition, no scoreboard, or no one cheering? Because the answer to that question does matter. I used to think that confidence came from proving myself. I thought confidence came from doing everything right, being prepared, being successful, and showing people that I belonged. But eventually, I realized something important. Confidence that depends on your performance is always temporary. Because there will always be another competition. There will always be that next challenge. There will always be another moment where you wonder if you are enough. And if your confidence only exists when everything goes perfectly, what happens when things don't? That is where the real work begins. Growing up as an athlete, it is easy to build your entire life around your sport. Your schedule revolves around practices, your weekends revolve around competitions, your friendships often come from your team, your goals become connected to how much better you can become. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with loving your sport and putting your 110% to it. And there's nothing wrong with being passionate. There's nothing wrong with wanting to improve. Those are some of the best parts of being an athlete. But what people don't see, and the problem that happens when your sport becomes the only thing that defines you. For me, cheerleading was something that shaped who I am. It taught me confidence, communication, discipline, and how to work with the team. But it also challenged me in ways that little me, 3-year-old me, could not have ever expected. Cheerleading comes with a lot of pressure. There is always pressure to look a certain way, to act a certain way, pressure to perform skills perfectly, pressure to always have energy even when you're tired, pressure to show up for others even when you haven't even given yourself the time of day or to fill your own cup, and pressure to make it all look effortless, when the reality is that you've worked extremely hard behind the scenes. And sometimes when you're surrounded by people who are constantly improving, it becomes easy to compare yourself. And you start looking at someone else's progress and using it as proof that you're not doing enough. You see someone hit a skill that you're struggling with, and you see someone receive recognition when you've been trying really hard, or you see someone achieving goals you've been really working hard toward, and instead of celebrating them, you start questioning yourself. Why am I not there yet? What am I doing wrong? Why does it seem easier for everyone else. But something I've learned is that comparison can completely steal the joy of something that you once loved because you stop focusing on your own growth. You stop noticing how far you've come. You stop appreciating the person you're becoming. You are too busy looking at someone else's journey. And the truth is, every athlete has a different timeline. Every athlete has different strengths and different challenges and different circumstances. Everyone has moments where they struggle, okay? There is not one person that hasn't had a mental block. There's not one person that hasn't been struggling extra with school. There's not one person that hasn't been struggling extra with family. Even the people that seem like they have it all together, I promise you, there is an underlying circumstance to every person's life. And here's what nobody tells athletes. Even if you become the best on the team, and even if you do achieve every single goal that you set for yourself, because I did, it will not automatically fix the way that you feel about yourself. Not to mention, athletics are ever changing. There is always something harder to hit next year. There are always new expectations. And once you hit these goals that you're talking about, there's always something else to do better on that you don't even get to sit there and celebrate hitting that skill. Unless obviously you're way ahead and you're doing like a freaking, voodoos, but I don't know, like think Bufu, but triple. Like, I don't even know. I don't know what to compare that to, but I was getting a Bufu, and then the next year everyone was getting a Voodoo. So I think honestly that's the best thing that I can compare it to. And then there was rewind, and then a full twisting rewind. There's always something else. You have to learn how to celebrate the small wins. But because these accomplishments can make you proud, but they cannot create your identity for you. You have to know who you are when the accomplishments are gone. One of the biggest things that athletes struggle with is believing that they are only valuable when they're succeeding. We live in a world where being busy is often seen as being successful. We praise people who are constantly working. We only see the highlights. We celebrate people who never stop. But athletes especially understand this pressure. You are expected to balance practices, schools, relationships, jobs, appearances, and your future. And sometimes resting feels wrong. No, most of the time, resting feels wrong. Sometimes taking a break feels like you're falling behind, but rest does not mean that you're lazy. Rest is actually a part of growth. Your body needs recovery. Your mind, out of everything, needs recovery. You cannot constantly pour from an empty cup. One thing I personally learned is that taking care of yourself is not something that you learn after you accomplish everything. It is something that you need in order to continue accomplishing things. And honestly, I think that that's where I fell short most of the time. I didn't fill into my own cup ever. I went on runs here and there, but I was never consistent. I went on, I lifted here and there, but I was never consistent. I was never consistent with walks. I was never consistent with the way that I ate. And now those are things that are like really important to me and things that I don't skip out on because it's a lifestyle for me. And had I treated my life more like a lifestyle, not just something that I was living for a little bit with a couple highlight reels in real life, had I treated it like it was my real forever life and trained myself to obtain these habits, I would have gotten a hell of a lot further. For fact. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And obviously, like I said, one thing that I personally learned is that taking care of yourself is not something that you earn after you accomplish everything. It is something that you need in order to continue accomplishing things. And that applies outside of athletics too. as I started thinking more about my future, I realized I wanted my identity to include more than just being an athlete. I wanted to pursue and explore other passions. I wanted to learn and I wanted to help people. And that is one of the main reasons I became interested in healthcare and pursuing a career as a physician assistant. Shadowing in a family clinic and learning more about patient care helped me realize that I have a passion for connecting people with people and making a difference in their lives. And that was a really big realization for me, because sometimes athletes feel like they have to choose one identity and stick to it, right? Because you want to be so good at it. And I mean, it's like that for most careers. You stick to one thing, you get really good at it, but you can be a jack of all trades. You can dip your toe. We are so young. That's just something I want to touch on too. I feel like I almost didn't allow myself to branch out into healthcare, because I was like, hello, I'm in my third year of college. I'm almost done with this comm major. Like, what am I doing? But I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. And I never would have known the progress I could have made in 1 year and did make in 1 year. And so you don't have to choose one identity. It's not you're only an athlete or a student or pursuing one career or you're something else. But the truth is, it could be multiple things. Your sport can be an important part of your story without being your entire story. The skills you learn as an athlete carry with you. The discipline, the communication, the ability to handle pressure, the ability to work with others. Those things don't disappear when the uniform comes off. They become a part of who you are. Another thing that can make this difficult is social media. Holy highlight reel. I even find myself looking back at my own videos and being like, wow, like I miss acting like that or having that routine or doing that or looking like that. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Social media allows us to constantly see everyone else's highlights. We see the achievements, we see the celebrations, we see the wins, and we see the moments that people are choosing to share. Once that gets through your brain, you are going to unlock a massive piece of advice that I wish I took and still would be able to take. It's honestly still hard for me. I still find myself comparing myself to people with rock hard abs or like, because I'm very into health and wellness, and when I see people eating a certain way, it makes me think, should I be eating that way? Or when I see people working out a certain way, should I be working out that way? And truth is, we're all different. All of our bodies need something different. There's definitely things out there that can help us. But there's nothing worth comparing. And I think that's where social media becomes very dangerous, because we don't see the struggles behind those moments. We do not see the missed attempts. We don't see the doubt. We don't see the hard days. So when you compare your everyday reality to somebody else's highlight reel, you're automatically creating an unfair comparison. Your journey is allowed to look different. Your progress is allowed to look different, which is not linear, and it very much does not happen overnight, like social media makes it look. Your definition of success is 1000% allowed to change. If you've ever felt like you're falling behind because someone else is succeeding faster than you, I want you to remember this. Someone else's success does not take away from yours. There's room for everyone to grow. Your timeline is still valuable, and the person you are becoming is worth celebrating. After everything I've experienced, there are 5 things I wish someone told me earlier. The first is, your teammates are not your competition. Your teammates are the people standing beside you. They're the people who understand the work that you put in. Someone else's success does not mean that you failed, and someone else's improvement does not mean that you are getting worse. You can support someone else and still work towards your own goals. The second thing is rest is not weakness. Athletes are taught to push through everything, especially coming from a cheerleader. I remember even in All Stars, whenever we were sick, they'd be like, great, grab a mask, sit on the floor, and watch everybody else go full out. Even if you were puking, cool, pull up a trash beside you. It did not matter. And while that taught us discipline and showing up no matter what, and no matter what kind of motivation we're feeling, just relying on our discipline and doing what we had to do for our teammates, it didn't give us a good for life scenario, okay? Because sometimes that mindset doesn't help us, or sometimes it does, but sometimes it hurts us. And knowing when to rest is part of being disciplined. Taking care of yourself allows you to perform better and enjoy the process more. And the third thing is your sport should add to your life, not become your life. Your sport can teach you incredible lessons, obviously. It can create lifelong friendships, it can shape your character, but you are still a whole person outside of it. Do you even know what kind of music taste you have? Do you know what kind of man you're looking for to marry? Like, do you know the kind of woman that you want to be? Like, do you want to be a woman of God? How can you embody that? Should you be in your word every single day? Should you start going to church? And all of these things. You have dreams, you have interests, you have goals, you have qualities that have nothing to do with your athletic ability. The fourth thing is growth feels uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. I just wish I could push people into conversations. I wish I could have pushed myself into more conversations and just break past that. Be uncomfortable. I think that's the best thing to realize is that it is. It's uncomfortable having a conversation with somebody that you've never met in your life. There's going to be some uncomfortable silence in there. But guess what? The next time you see them, they're always going to say, hey, and you're always going to say, hey. And it's just organically meeting is just not looked at the same way anymore. And it's unreal. But trying something new is difficult and change is difficult. Figuring out who you are outside of something familiar is very difficult. But discomfort does not mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes discomfort is proof that you're growing. And the fifth thing, you deserve happiness outside of your achievements. You deserve to feel proud of yourself even on days when you do not accomplish anything. You deserve kindness from yourself. And I'm not trying to say this in a sappy way or a sappy manner. I have been abiding and living by these terms, and I have never grown so much in my life. Because hearing from yourself day in and day out what you are, you will become exactly that. And so take that as you will. But remember, I know it sounds really cheesy, but watch the way that you speak to yourself. I hate the way that I used to speak to myself. And you can wake up one day and you can say no more. And you can change that. And it will change your entire outlook on life, I promise you. Because you deserve to enjoy life without constantly needing to prove something. Because at the end of the day, you're more than your performance, you're more than your statistics, you're more than your awards, and you are more than the uniform that you wear. So, if you take anything away from this episode, I hope that it's this. Your sport is something that you do. It is not everything that you are. The uniform represents a part of your story, but does not represent the entire story. The strongest athletes are not the ones, or not just the ones who perform well. They are the ones who know themselves. They are the ones who understand their value does not disappear after a bad day. And they're the ones who can walk away from the field, the court, or the competition and still know exactly who they are. So this week, I want to challenge you to do something. Ask yourself, what is one thing I can do that has absolutely nothing to do with my sport? Maybe it's spending time with friends. Maybe it's trying something new. Maybe resting without feeling guilty. Maybe it's recognizing something you are proud of that has nothing to do with athletics, because learning who you are outside of the uniform is one of the most important journeys you'll ever take. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Uniform. I hope this episode reminded you that your value has never been measured by a score, a performance, or someone else's expectations, and you are already enough beyond the uniform. Thank you for listening, and remember that you are more than you accomplish. I'll see you next time. Have you ever